Superhero Network. I'm so excited. You're going to want to tune in because if you are a speech therapist, I have a speech therapy pathologist with me today to share her story as her path to nature-based work. I have Alisyn with me today with Nature Talks LLC out of Kentucky, but also doing virtual work in Arizona currently. And she is here to share her story as a source of inspiration to inspire you to really think outside the box. So tune in if you are a speech therapist, but also tune in if you are an OT considering bringing on maybe a speech therapist, and what does it look like to collaborate with nature? And Alisyn has so much going on. And so I'm super excited. So thank you, Alisyn, for coming on and sharing your story. I think this is going to be awesome.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so, how I like to start is just, your connection to nature and where that started as perhaps kind of what's been driving you towards this dream all along. So if you could share that, that would be awesome.
Yeah, as far as my story of connection to nature, it was just always it was always part of my life. My best friend growing up had a farm. We were always out and we were just given the freedom to roam and explore, which was it was key to like me developing this love for nature. My mom always allowed me to take in abandoned baby birds, abandoned baby bunnies, and we would raise them. I volunteered with a wildlife rehabilitator, the Phoenix Zoo. We always had a garden. We were just always, and my mom was always like, she just believed in you're barefoot all the time. Like we're barefoot, we run around. Like she was like doing the grounding before grounding was a thing. So she was just like, she obviously raised me this way, and it is part of who I am now.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And I think, that's true that, if you, and I don't know how old you are, I'm old enough where, there was no technology really. I think I had an Odyssey or an
Yeah.
Atari kind of thing way back when, but
Mhm.
that wasn't even that fun. And so, I think now with the rise in the interest in nature-based work, it's really because we have to be a little more intentional with either getting our children outside or for families to go outside. And so, but I'd
Absolutely.
like to highlight kind of, where did it start for you? And for most, it's like this freedom to roam or this really easy access to nature growing up. So thank you for sharing that connection.
Mhm.
And then, you kind of had that as your base or your foundation. And then you kind of made your way to speech therapy. So if you could kind of talk about that path into your professional world, I would love to hear that as well.
Yeah. So growing up, I wanted to be a veterinarian, but then I just loved language. So I would just, I was just always studying Spanish or like a second language, and I just loved learning about it. So then I went to college, kind of changed my major a couple of times, but ended up majoring in linguistics, in Spanish, and minor in public relations at Arizona State. And I just was fascinated with linguistics. Like that was my favorite thing. But then I graduated and I became a veterinary assistant,
Oh,
which, so not using my degree, but I learned so much in the 4 years of being a veterinary assistant in Oregon with the Oregon Coast. Right. We kind of worked with the Oregon Coast Aquarium.
wow.
And I just, that actually taught me a lot about like anatomy, like general anatomy, even though it was like animals, just kind of working in the medical setting was really fun. And then I ended up substituting for it was I was like a temporary substitute for a classroom, early childhood education classroom. And there was this SLPA in there. And I was like, what is your job? Because that's what I want to do. And then I worked really closely with, it was a classroom specifically for kids with autism. And I just had amazing mentors. They had this whole curriculum, like I think it was the STAR curriculum, where it was just like this beautiful cadence of like um getting kids with autism to communicate using all these tools and have their routine and the visual schedules. And so that was absolutely seeing that like orchestra of like
Yeah.
communication, and the OT and the PT were all just a team, and it was so fun. So that's when I was like, okay, I'm doing this. So then I went to Northern Arizona University, got another bachelor's degree to be an SLPA, worked as SLPA for like 7 years. And then and meanwhile, just had amazing mentors. Like I feel so fortunate. And I think, I mean, I just love learning from people.
Yeah.
So I'm just easily inspired, honestly. And so yeah, I just had amazing mentors the whole time. And then I got into, I always wanted to be an SLP, but I have 3 kids, so it was kind of difficult. But then I got into grad school at Western Kentucky. Um, by the way, during COVID and while pregnant, so that was a challenge. And that then graduated in 2021 from there.
Mhm.
And my husband's in the army, so then we moved to Kentucky. That's what we're here at Fort Knox now.
Yeah.
So yeah, honestly, that's kind of a snapshot of my professional journey. Not
Wow, I love that. I mean, it wasn't like you went and got your BA and went on to grad school. It was,
at all.
I
I did
love
it the long way.
you had the experience first and was really inspired to go like, I want to do what they're doing, right? That
Oh
you
yeah.
saw
Yeah.
kind of the impact that they were having on trying to provide communication opportunities for children. So I love that story. I didn't know that was your story, so that's pretty cool. That's awesome. And so, but here you are now. So you are an entrepreneur. So, you know what? At what point did you decide that that was going to be your path versus just going to work for someone else? I would love to hear that because I think we get, we are feeling like we want to do something different or maybe do our own thing, but it's very different to actually take that step and make it happen. So could you speak to that a little bit too?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the struggle that kind of sparked me to become an entrepreneur was being a military spouse. Like
Mhm.
I love being an employee. I've worked for amazing employers, but moving every 2 years and just having to get a new job, and it's if I don't have to do that and I can just move my own business around and like manage it myself, then it's going to solve a lot of problems for me, but also allow me to just build a consistent community.
Yeah.
You know, I was in Oregon and then Texas and then Arizona and then Kentucky, and I met amazing professionals and I stay connected. But if you look at my resume, I have a lot of different jobs on there.
Yeah.
So if I could, that's why, the virtual is kind of the perfect platform for me. So
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that. So, I mean, that makes perfect sense that if you are a mobile family because of work or because that's maybe how you live your life is you kind of travel around, then creating your own thing does make sense. So that's awesome. And so let's talk about the virtual therapy or the telehealth, if you will, because I think when we think of nature-based work, I mean, sometimes those two things don't fit together.
mhm.
Um, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about how you maybe bring nature in or how you organize that in your brain as a real valid and effective form of therapeutic intervention. So can you speak to that?
Yeah. Yeah, when you hear a nature-based virtual therapist, that sounds like an oxymoron, right? So,
Yeah.
first of all, okay, I just heard this term called ikigai. I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's a Japanese concept that combines meaning you're alive, but also you're kind of combined with your purpose.
Hmm.
So it's like you're just have a career that is your purpose. You're not just going to work and then you come home and then you do your hobby. So like this is just a blend of like everything I love. So I kind of created this nature talks as like this hybrid model of just everything I love because that's the only way it's going to sustain for me. If I want to start my own business, it has to be something I'm obsessed with. Like I love it so much. So
Right
so
on. I love that. And then that is
yeah,
kind of what I speak to too, that if you love it, it is a sustainable kind of over time business. And not that it
exactly.
can't ebb and flow or adapt to meet needs, but
Hmm.
if you can hold on to that purpose. And I love that you kind of brought it all together of all the things that you love. So yeah,
Exactly.
keep going.
Yeah. So so yeah, I've just created this kind of business model that's for me, sustainable for me. It's something I just naturally do every day.
Yeah.
So combining the virtual aspect, my main market is to homeschool students in Arizona who don't have access to therapy. I feel like, our ASHA is the American Speech Language Hearing Association overseeing board, and they really challenge, entrepreneurs to think of, you know, the underserved communities. So I was like, okay, that's kind of the underserved community I want to target, who I think is the most accessible. When it comes to my schedule, and I have a lot of connections, and it just made sense. So the virtual way is, I feel like, works for me. I love doing virtual therapy, but also a way to get to families who don't have access. So then the way I merge that with the nature is, I always have I just naturally always have some kind of nature inspiration going. Like I have a dock camera where we look at, worms. We even went out, I took my phone during the Zoom meeting and we went out and dug up worms from my garden and then looked at them under a dock camera, and we're doing the EET describing strategies, the expanding expression tool. We're using, green group, what group is a worm in? Blue do, what does a worm do? Like all these, these evidence-based strategies using nature. And we'll feed my animals. It has a bearded dragon, we would feed it. Or even we raised caterpillars together and we observed them, and then they got to see them. And then I recorded my releasing of them and showed them. And it's just,
That's awesome.
like, you can incorporate so much nature into virtual therapy. And then I also do in-person language enrichment groups, because I can kind of plan it when I'm available. And then also it's a nature-based bilingual language enrichment group. So it's mostly from 2 to 6-year-olds. I have a couple different groups, and we do Spanish and English language enrichment in nature. So I have like a curriculum, and we use a lot of visuals. We explore different concepts, labeling nouns, describing them, labeling actions, and especially the social aspects where I'm directly teaching them, turn taking, or, just asking somebody's name or asking questions, having simple conversations. Like, it kind of incorporates all of that, but we're using nature because nature is intrinsically motivating. And it's not like when you go to the
biophilia hypothesis, we have this kind of innate connection, or that it draws us in. So yeah, you're right on. Yeah,
exactly. Because when you go to a clinic, like I love working at, I've worked in all the different settings actually. And when you go to a clinic, you have to go get a board game, and you have to have that extrinsic motivator where I have something you want, so you have to do what I want first, and then I'll reward you, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. But with nature, you don't need that extrinsic motivator. They're already motivated and they're learning, and you can just incorporate the goals.
Yeah. That sparked something that I had forgotten about, that when I first started my business. So I have a speech therapist who also is bilingual. And so we trialed like a bilingual camp where we brought Spanish speaking children together with English speaking to kind of try to make that connection.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty awesome, but I had forgotten that we did that, and we only did it one time. But gosh, I'm gonna have to share this with her. So shout out to my friend Michelle, because she would be so excited to hear
I
that.
love that. Yes, please have her tell me some ideas.
So who are you? Are you teaching Spanish speaking skills, or are you bringing Spanish speaking children into your enrichment?
In my area, where it's primarily English speaking, so we're just teaching Spanish.
Yeah. Okay.
This area. If I was to move somewhere with more bilingual community, then that would be an awesome concept. But yeah,
Yeah.
as of right now it's like I have specific concepts we're targeting, and then I might teach them like like we'll do a hello song in Spanish in the beginning. We'll learn each other's names in Spanish and English, and then we'll like explore just different nouns, different actions, different spatial concepts.
Right.
And it's not going to be too overwhelming, but it's not going to be like a total immersion.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But we're definitely going to learn a couple things. I wanted to make it trilingual and do some like sign language, but I'm not like fluent in sign, but that might be something I kind of add in too for the littler ones.
I love it. And so you wrote a curriculum then for
Mhm.
that enrichment
Yeah.
program for the bilingual? Wow, that's awesome. Very cool. And so is that something then you offer at different times of the year, or is it an ongoing program?
So right now I'm at Fort Knox for um until May. And so I'm just offering free language enrichment classes at our community garden,
Okay.
which is actually another kind of branch. I founded this program called Mission Food Forest,
Wow.
which is right now it's a collaborative kind of inspiration platform for gardening and sharing food on military installations. But last year we created this amazing community garden here on Fort Knox, and it has a children's garden inspired by Burnham Forest, if you've ever heard of it. They have a Playco system,
My God.
um, and they also use the Child Nature Network. I
Yeah.
think you're connected to also.
Yep.
Anyway, okay, that's a lot. So bring it back. So we have this amazing children's garden, and so we're going to do our free classes there. And yeah, currently I'm just doing it for free as a kind of advocacy and awareness slash also marketing for my company, just to military families.
Yeah. And so
And
do you have
then,
people helping you then, or like when, like who, I mean, so you're facilitating it, but then do you have people helping, or how, what does, or do parents come? And so it's kind of this whole community kind of event or activity?
yeah, for it right now it's just me. And then for the 2 to 3 year olds, I just require parent and redirection, honestly. And
Yeah.
then the 4 to 6 year olds, the parents have to be there. They can't leave, but it's just me. And then we just do like our little class. I would love to have more people on, but it's kind of I'm piloting it right now to
Yeah.
get it going.
And it sounds like it's kind of like an opportunity for them to get to know you, and maybe if there's ever some future, speech and language need or something like that, that they would then seek you out. So it's kind of like I hate to say kind of a feeder into your business, but it's a
Yeah,
potential
absolutely.
referral source, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, you can call it it's marketing, but also I love just being there and like being a
Right.
resource. So
Yeah.
it works out that it happens to be my business.
Yeah. Right.
So,
What a gift you are to wherever you are living. Uh,
oh,
yeah, with your roaming around with your husband and all of that. So thank you for his service too, by the way. I mean that,
yeah.
and I know the life can be challenging because it's hard to establish your roots when you're navigating and moving around a bit. So,
Actually, my motto is bloom where you're planted.
and you are.
Only thing you can do.
If you're there a short time, it sounds like you were making things happen and providing a much needed service. So thank you for that.
Mhm.
So let's talk more about let's give everybody kind of a list of the services, because we've talked about a few different things. So let's kind of pull it together. And
Yeah.
so you are Nature Talks LLC.
Yes.
Right now you are in Fort Knox, Kentucky.
That's right.
But you're going back to Arizona, and
Flagstaff up north in Flagstaff, Arizona.
you're kind of up in the mountains. So you'll have snow and all of that then.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. And so let's talk about then every service. So you have the bilingual enrichment program, outdoors in nature.
Just like a play group. Yeah.
Yep. And then you have virtual speech therapy.
Hmm.
Yep. And parent coaching. So tell me about that. We haven't talked about parent coaching. So
Right now, I have like a free consultation for parents who just have some simple questions, but my parent coaching, I was trying to think of like what do I have to offer? Like what do I love and can just talk about forever? And the one thing that I feel like I can really help parents with is challenging behaviors.
Mhm.
Because like I said, back, when I was in that autism, that preschool for kids with autism, and I've been in a couple of those settings. I just learned these amazing strategies that I use every single day. And they're not magic. It's something that in the parent coaching session is 1 hour long, and we create the materials together. Like we investigate one behavior that
Yeah.
you want to target using the ABC, the antecedent behavior consequence chart. We investigate that. And let me back up. The reason that this falls under my realm as a speech therapist, because you would think, okay, behaviors are ABA, right? But the reason that behaviors fall under my realm is because behavior is a form of communication. So that's why it's in my scope to discover, okay, what are they communicating with this behavior, and how do we redirect it and give them a different way of communicating what they're trying to communicate.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I agree with you. 100%. Yes. Yes.
So that's something I love doing. And so during this coaching sessions, we do three things. We investigate the behavior.
Mhm.
We kind of isolate it, investigate it, talk about it. We create visual schedules for the routine surrounding that behavior.
Yep.
And then we create a token economy system, which star chart, whatever you want to call it. But I teach the parents like to use them intentionally and in a more strategic way than just a star chart. So then I provide them with all these resources. Like we actually create the materials in that hour session. It's like a crash course. We create one visual schedule. I show you everything I use. I give you all the links,
Okay.
and then I send you on your way. And then if there's a package that if you want me to like be more of a support for that, like for a whole month, I will text you like 3 times a week, check in, see how it's going. We'll modify it. I will actually like laminate them and mail them to you if you wanted me to. And I can just be more of a support for that month.
Sure.
Also, we'll do like some data collection and see if it's actually working.
Yes.
But the general thing is just that hour crash course. I'm going to teach you those 3 strategies that I use every day.
Awesome. Good. Matt, you have several kind of revenue streams, right? That you can make money from.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's awesome. And like you said, it's all things that you either have a lot of experience with or that lights you up in some way, or it kind of feels like your purpose. So awesome. All right. So let's see. We talked about kind of, who you serve. Do you want to speak more to that? So who are your private therapy virtual clients mostly? What age range are you primarily servicing?
Pediatric, mostly. Oh, I mean, honestly, I do 0 to 21 is my main age group. And I target mostly homeschool families in Arizona because so ASHA, the American Speech Language Hearing Association, challenges us to find an underserved community that, as an entrepreneur, like somebody who needs access to speech therapy. And I have found that a lot of homeschool families in rural areas don't have access to a speech therapist, because if you think about it, in a public school and you're a teacher, you're probably going to have a speech pathologist on staff that you can just say, hey, this kid seems to be having some problems with his R sound. Can you come listen to him?
Yeah.
Homeschool families don't have that. They don't have that consult. They don't even maybe know that what speech therapy services offer.
Right.
So,
right. And so then, and so are you considered out of network, out of pocket? You don't bill insurance, I'm guessing. Okay.
I'm in the process of getting credentialed through a couple insurances, currently just private pay, but I'm also an ESA vendor because Arizona has a empowerment scholarship that homeschool families, like if you opt out of public school services, you qualify for like $6,000-ish a year. That basically Arizona has decided, hey, your child is still like, this is the value of a public school kid. Your homeschool kid is still worth this amount of money.
Wow.
Like the other states, it's kind of mind blowing. Like when I go to other states and I'm like, wait, you don't get any money to homeschool? Like, because I'm so used to Arizona.
We don't get that here in Wisconsin, but I know in Florida they do also, that they have kind of a fund that they can draw money from. I mean, we
Yeah.
have kind of the waiver program, but that doesn't cover like private therapy. I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, so that's awesome that you can
Yeah.
access that or they can access that to get your services. So,
Yeah. So I mean, and I offer kind of almost a tutoring in a way, where say your kid has a speech sound issue.
yeah,
Because this is what they do in the public schools. They call it RTI. I don't know if you've heard of it, but response to intervention. So I'm offering kind of that same service, but to homeschoolers so that let's try some strategies before we evaluate him and give them an official special education diagnosis. Let's try some strategies out first and see if they work.
yeah,
So that's I call it the speech improvement program. It's
yeah.
not speech therapy, it's more of an enrichment. But
Okay.
that's covered by ESA. And then and I just like invoice the families and then they submit it. And then so they don't even have to pay me if they don't want to. It just goes straight through ESA.
Oh, that's awesome too.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, so let's talk about, so are you getting paid for any of your nature-based work, like your groups then? So that you have the garden one, which is um more of kind of, just you are introducing people to community gardening, you're
Hmm.
for them to come together, get to know you. And so do you have any other programs where you collaborate with nature?
Paid, not yet, but so I'm
Yeah,
offering it for free to the military community. I
yeah,
consider doing some because on base I can't charge just because
right.
of the
Yeah,
policies.
sure.
Um, but I was considering doing some off base where I would have like a enrollment fee, but I think I'm just going to use this time to kind of develop what I want to do,
Yeah,
get
because
some
when are
feedback
you moving? Because you're moving, right?
in May. Yeah.
May, so that's not that far away, right?
Yeah. And when I move to Flagstaff, I'm planning on and to keep it sustainable, to keep it something I can keep doing, I have to be able to make some money off of it and um for to be able to have that time to keep doing it. So then I will start charging once I move. But at this time, yeah, I'm just kind of developing it a little bit. And
Yeah,
then
of course.
I was actually primarily inspired by Outside the Box in Louisville.
Okay. Okay.
Um, she's an OT that introduced me to your Nature Superheroes Network.
Really?
Yeah,
Cool. So who is
she,
that person? Do you know her name?
hang on, yes. Give me a second. Oh, it's on top to my tongue. Hang on.
I think I know who you're talking about. Yes. Oh yeah, I know her.
Yeah.
It's been a while though since we've connected. So yeah,
Yeah.
she was one of my original people that I connected with when I was first starting Nature Superhero Network.
Mm-hmm.
Starts with a T, I think. Why can't I think of it? That's terrible.
I
But yeah,
know.
I know who you're talking about. That's awesome.
Um, it'll come to me before the video ends.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she has a nonprofit in Louisville, Kentucky that does this. Like they just do nature-based therapy services. And then she's an occupational therapist for Sensories OT, Sensories Louisville area OT. Um,
Yeah, I don't.
and I heard about her program and I actually emailed her. I was like, how do I do that? Like, can you hire me? Like, can somehow, like, that is what I want to do. And
Yeah.
then, she basically was like, well, we're not, at the time, I don't think they even had a speech therapist on board, but she got me in contact with you. And then I realized there's this whole like world of nature-based therapists that I didn't even know about. So that was really exciting.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that you found us. And so let's talk about then what's been helpful for you in creating this. What resources, either family support, friend support, what has been helpful for you so that people can understand that too, that we don't always just do it by ourselves. Like sometimes we need help. So what has been helpful for you?
First of all, my mom just having someone to entertain your wild ideas.
There you go.
I'm
Yep.
always like, I don't even know how she does it, puts up with me, but like I always call her and be like, oh my gosh, listen to this idea I have. And she actually listens to me and like entertains it and like gets me excited and like more excited. Um, so just having that person, that you can just call and who
Yeah.
will entertain your dreams.
That's awesome.
Um, you know, my my husband like absolutely just uplifts anything I want to do. He's like, okay, and then supports it, and but he's the one who kind of grounds me and like is like, okay, what's the action plan? Like it's, his army, like he's like,
Let's
yeah, I hear
like
your
that.
dreams, but let's make the action plan here.
Mhm.
And then like what's the course of action?
My
And
husband's an
what's
IT
the
guy, so
mission?
yeah, he likes the plan, and I like
Yes.
the idea, but yeah, yeah.
So
So
it's so good to have that person too.
yep,
Emily Moscow, by the way. Okay. Emily Moscow,
yeah,
outside the box. Thank you, Emily.
yeah,
You're the one who inspired
yeah,
a lot of this for me.
yeah. That's awesome. Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, and then when it comes to mentors, I have so many mentors um, that I could name like each, like seriously, I think just being inspired by others, like actually being like when I meet people I love, actually like what's your passion? Like I want to know like what's that thing that you love? So with SLPs is such a passionate career. I feel like most of them I've met are just so smart and like like my best friend Shauna was my supervisor. I was her assistant, and we just became like great friends as that assistant like supervisor bond. And
Yeah,
then she's just been like this. Anytime I have like a SLP question, she's just I call her and she's my wealth of information.
awesome, awesome.
And then I have like another SLPA friend who we're just like soul sisters in a way. Because we're both like, well, she's bilingual. She's actually speaks French. She's like my nature inspo. And like we've dreamed from like 10 years ago. We're like, because she's not going to go back to school. But I was like, okay, well, I'll just be your supervisor. You can be my assistant. We'll do this nature stuff. And like, it's going to happen.
Yeah, it sounds so familiar. Like when I first started, and I mean, it was speech therapists that joined me. It was not another OT right away. I had two
Mhm.
speech therapists that are like, yep, we're all about this. Like it makes
Yeah.
sense how you build language, in play and the nature piece of things, bringing in animals and finding the motivation outdoors. And so you sound just like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
So
lot of like-minded
yeah.
people.
Yeah. So I love it. So anything else that has been helpful to you? Otherwise, we can move on to kind of what advice might you offer to others, other speech therapists or other people in general that are dreaming about this or are wanting to make it happen, but just need, maybe some thoughts around how to do that.
I think another thing that's been helpful is that, well, I feel very lucky to have been able to go on this path, but I saw this thing recently where it was like, if you ask an artist, you found like a real artist when you ask them why they paint and they say, because I have to.
Yeah,
So I feel like that with like gardening and nature is something I just like, I have to do it. It's just something I like, sure, it's my hobby, but it just brings me so much joy. Like it's just therapeutic for me. And I just feel like everybody needs to know. Everybody needs to know about this. I'm
yeah,
like an evangelist for nature, I guess. But the fact that I've been able to follow that passion into a career, like if you have something you're that you're driven by, and then you can incorporate that into your career and make yourself unique, but also like passionate about what you do, I feel like it's so valuable to your business. So if there's like people who are entrepreneurs, like find out what that thing is that you just love and then incorporate that into your business.
for sure. And I feel like we have our own interests outside of our professional careers, but for people that I bring in to support me for my summer camps, I'm always harnessing what they love to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because if you bring those things together, it's like magic. I mean, like
Yeah.
they are all in. They are, just so incredibly motivated and inspired to be a part of it then.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's that Iki guy. I
Yeah,
love
exactly.
that concept.
And I think that's a good, kind of way to even have a business model is the people that you hire to think about, what else do they love to do, right?
Yeah.
As that keeps them happy then, in my opinion, and you're offering them a space to really that really lights them up in that way that they can do their professional career that they were educated on, but also bringing in this part that really fills their cup. So I hear what you're saying, definitely. Yeah.
And that actually makes me think of one more thing that kind of I really value that maybe like sets me apart a little bit as a speech therapist because I've had great mentors and have had the ability to be on therapy teams where the parent is an essential part of the team.
Yeah.
Like the parent is maybe even the most important person on the team. Actually, they are the most important person. Let's be real. So that's like in my therapy, I've worked in clinics and schools where I never even talked to the parent. Maybe I didn't attend the IEP meeting because I was an assistant. Literally never met the parent. Not there's no connection. Maybe I'll send home a worksheet. I don't know if it actually gets done. And I feel like when I see real progress, I did home health, and that's where I just saw amazing progress because the parent was an essential part of the team, especially with the early intervention. I love early intervention because it's the team approach. You're making those team goals. So that's an essential part of nature talks is like the parent is the most important part of the team. And I'm just a part of your tribe. I'm just a part of your child's tribe because the parent's the one building that tribe.
Yes.
So
I think that was a big reason why I love now being an entrepreneur and having my own business. I worked in the public school system for 20 years,
mhm.
kind of doing this part-time, and now I'm full-time, but to be able to communicate with parents and to educate them, empower them, to have some strategies, some tools, to just even see their child in a different way, not as
Exactly.
behavioral being, but like, to look at the whole child and what drives maybe behavior or what drives kind of why they might be doing something that is curious to the parents. I mean, yeah, so I resonate with you 100% about bringing in those parents and having them really be a integral part of
Mhm.
that team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Them on,
And as a parent, that's what I want. That's what I would want.
right.
So,
I feel like, what is different is that now with this nature-based focus, really educating on them on the importance of going outdoors, and a sensory tool can be the outdoors. And so,
and it's free and it's accessible
yeah,
and it's actually evidence-based strategies, all these fancy words you want to put on it.
right.
It's right there outside.
Exactly. And so for my families that sign up for packages for private therapy, they get lots of info videos from me. I keep them very short, but a part of that is the education either around, why nature or how to collaborate with nature when you're
Love
on the
that.
front in your backyard, in your neighborhood playground. Uh,
Mhm.
and I know that, or bringing nature in if that's what we have access to. So, just depending on their access point, then I would give them kind of different suggestions. But that's awesome. So thank you for all that information. And so we kind of land now is if there's a quote that inspires you, and I love that you shared the word that talks about bringing your purpose and your professional wisdom together. But do you have a quote that you would like to share with us?
I do. And it's from one of my heroes. Have you heard of Temple Grandin?
Of course, yes.
Okay. She's like a pioneer for people with autism. And it's so funny because, by the way, when I first started dating my husband, she was coming to we had gone and seen like his favorite comedian who's like, his kind of idol. And I was like, okay, my idol is coming it was like the Grand Canyon University. And I was like, we have to go see her talk. And so she went there and oh man, I love Temple Grandin. I always like make parents watch her movie and like just see, look, I mean, if we just have to learn how they're communicating. But she said this quote that I absolutely love that said, the most important thing people did for me was expose me to new things.
I love it.
And that kind of encompasses a lot of what I do. And so it's like, because she was exposed to new things and kind of, which is hard to do when, especially with, if you have a kid with autism, because it might be hard for them to transition or, a new environment. Or maybe they are an eloper, and it's exhausting to take them somewhere because you have to chase them. But exposing her to new things, was how she learned to communicate. She didn't talk till she was 4 or 5. She was nonverbal till she was 4 or 5. And back then in the 70s, kids like her were institutionalized.
Yeah, right.
So, but her mom was her hero, honestly, and was like, no, I'm going to find people who are going to figure out how she's communicating. We're going to learn how she communicates, and we're going to start speaking her language. And through that, they figured out that visuals were her way of communicating. Like, she thought in pictures.
Right.
So by exposing her to new things, she was able to, which actually getting her out in nature, she went to this farm, which is where she learned a lot of a lot of her communication abilities, and kind of too to advocate for herself, because she knew like she needed some sensory input. So in college, she created this squeeze machine and advocated. She's like, I know it's weird, but I need it. So yeah.
She is a huge inspiration. And if you're listening and you don't know her work, yeah, go check it out.
Buy
And
her books.
yeah,
Yes.
books. I mean, and I'm smiling ear to ear because, I'm growing my private practice and I'm talking to a lot of parents who have older children with autistic
Hmm.
children in teen years. And what they are looking for are new opportunities or a new way of thinking about therapeutic experiences. And so this nature-based twist, I feel like, is really resonating with families. Like, wow, yes, because it's a different environment, it's a different type of experience for therapy. And, I'm working with a family right now where they've never seen their child so happy, like lit
Yeah.
up and motivated to move their body. And so, and I'm just like taking all this data, but I'm like, and listening very intently about, what the parents are saying. And like what
Mhm.
you just said, different environments, different experiences is really kind of the bridge for them to find joy, to find ease, to find maybe even purpose. So, yes. So thank you for saying that. That's awesome.
Well, and by the way, like when you go into a clinic, a sterile clinic environment, and there's fluorescent lights, and maybe they sprayed Febreze, and there's all these things in there that, when especially a kid with sensory issues is already kind of turtling into their shell,
Yeah.
you know? And with nature, when you have the natural light, and usually you're not by a road or anything, you don't have like loud noises or echoes, or next door there's another kid screaming and it's echoing or whatever. So the clinic setting definitely has its purpose, but if you can go into nature, you're taking all that away. You're taking all that stress away, and you're just immediately off the bat giving them the best opportunity, to
And I
do the
think that I
therapy.
think that it can increase their participation sooner because
Hmm.
they have that sense of felt safety, um, kind of right away. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been amazing to watch. And so, I'm keeping this data in my brain as I'm making these observations and just seeing what it is. But yeah, so thank you for sharing about Temple Grandin's work because she is pretty awesome, pretty
Yes,
amazing.
I love that.
That she has shared her story and how that has really impacted us professionally. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Well, this has been great, Alisyn. I feel like we could talk forever.
Thank
But
you.
from you, and I look forward to kind of following your journey and what's next, especially with the big move that's happening and what that looks like for you in Flagstaff. And so thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story. I do appreciate your time.
Yeah, and thank you for having the Nature Superhero Network and connecting all of us and letting us see that it's possible to have this kind of platform in our careers. So there's so much inspiration there. Everybody needs to go follow that Nature Superhero Network.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.